Welcome! So, lots of technical difficulties this evening, but I figured I'd rather get the show on the road and just have one single camera. So, hello, internet world. So, we'll just have this camera and no chat and no second camera, but we're still going to have fun and hopefully learn something. Also, I'm hoping you can hear me, which I'm hoping it works. I was going to prepare 2 discs like a cooking show to have one ready to go, but since I was fiddling around with the Fang Dangle technology, we're only going to do part of the dye tonight. Who knows, we might go live another night to finish it off. But the thing that we're going to be doing is the Dye-a-Thon. So this theme is the dog days of summer. It's like the hottest part of summer, and we want to see creations from you of what you think and your interpretation of the hottest days of summer. It could be a fiery hell, or it could be a beautiful beach scene. Who knows? But again, I'd like to see your interpretation. And the Dye-a-Thon, it's not a contest, it's just a fun way to try something new, do something interactive, and if you submit the dye with the theme on the specific post on the website, you'll get entered to win something, and this month you get to win a blank dye disc. Now, what that disc is yet, I don't know, but it's going to be blank and white. So yeah, again, I wanted to do a little bit more tonight, but technology was not on my side. Luckily, I got it working this far, but yes. So if you're watching the YouTube stream, you only see one camera, and the chat is not going to work on screen, but it'll work on if you're on YouTube watching on the YouTubes. So for tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying a stencil, coloring that black, then we'll be prepping the glue bed for this as well. I was gonna also have Brittany from Ugly Hand Dyes on here, but again, technology didn't work. Maybe next time. But Brittany, I will be asking you questions because I forgot what we chatted about last night about colors. So yeah, well, without further ado, it's probably going to be a little short one tonight, which is fine. Chat, love to see you doing some chatty things and pointing out what I am doing wrong or could do better. So yeah, I'll take a little sippy sip of the White Claw, and we can get started. So I'm going to treat this like you've never dyed a disc before. For the most part, you have kind of an understanding what disc dyeing is and how it works, but I'll kind of explain what I usually teach at classes. So we have a white dyeable disc in premium plastic, and how you can tell, a good rule of thumb of how you can tell that it's dyeable is it is got a glossy sheen on it. If it has a matte finish, then it doesn't take dye as well. The rule of thumb, if it's shiny and glossy, it'll work. Again, white is better for that. Typically in the disc manufacturing process, they have a release agent on the disc, and the dye does not like to take to that. So what we do is we like to clean the disc, and there's multiple ways to clean the disc. My preferred way is using isopropyl alcohol, and I feel like I say that funny. You can use Dawn dish soap and go over the sink and wash it. You can use a magic eraser, but I found, again, isopropyl alcohol works the best. Not best, but you know, there's multiple ways to do one thing, but I prefer the isopropyl alcohol. All right, so we're using an Axiom disc, which has the overmold, and what I want to do is I don't want to dye the overmold because the overmold can get dyed. If you have the black rim one from MVP, say something like this, you don't really necessarily have to mask it off because it is black, but I did find if you use neon colors, it will dye this. So keep that in mind. What I like to do is I like to mask it off with good old electrical tape. I think I learned this from Ivan from Delicious Discs. I don't know who originally did that, but that is where I got the idea from. And what we're going to do is just tape the rim of the disc off. It's basically just like vinyl. So it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, but it's a quick and easy way to mask off the rim. And depending on what dyeing method you do, there's some other steps that I would recommend as well. If you're just doing a bed, you don't have to worry about it seeping too much. I found issues where the start and end of the masking, that little lip can cause some bleeding. Like if you're doing a stencil and doing some DA, it can bleed within there as well. So just masking this off the best as I can. It doesn't have to be totally perfect, but close enough will get you. Because I want to keep the color of this rim, and I don't necessarily want to dye this rim, but you totally can if you want. That is a personal preference. So as you can see, it doesn't take too long in the grand scheme of things. I mean, the other way that you could mask off the rim, which I feel is a little bit more wasteful, is you could take a sheet of vinyl, put it over, then with the overmold, there's like that little gap between the flight plate and the overmold, and you could just use an X-Acto knife and follow that, which I have done. The only time I would recommend using clear vinyl, so you can actually see better where that flight plate and overmold technology is. A little bit more here. And should be good to go. And you'll see what I'm doing for the stencil in a little bit, but when I thought of the dog days of summer, I thought of something super hot. The first thing that I thought of was ice cream melting. You know, I have a kid, and I feel like kids just let that ice cream drip all over the place, and they have no cares of getting their hands all sticky and goopy and just full of ice cream. Personally, I hate that. I hate things on my hands that make it feel icky. So yeah, good timing moves. So the lip, where it transitions from the beginning to the end, can cause some bleeding, and Moog said a little heat gun and some fingernail action makes this not happen. True. Don't have my heat gun with me, and I know Brittany has a burnishing device, aka fingernail, but not fingernail. But there is an actual metal burnishing device that you can make sure that is sealed up nicely. You can be a savage and use a fingernail, which is perfectly fine, which I'm actually going to do. But you just want to make sure that, best you can, that there's going to be no bleeds. So there shouldn't be. So I got my sweaty meat paws over this, and I'm going to wipe it down one more time, just to make sure that like my sweat didn't infiltrate or get on the disc, or it won't accept the dye. Okay, so I'm going to grab Dave's Ziscaline. No, it's not Dave's. It's Ziscaline Pro 3000. So we sell these on the website as kits, or we sell them as plans. Basically, this little doohickey is a easy way to mount your laser, and it comes assembled like that, and it takes like 2 seconds to put together, as you can see. There you go. You can check it out on the website if you'd like. But what that allows us to do is we can take our laser and we can shove it within here. And the inner diameter of this tube is a friction fit. You gotta put it the right way. So it automatically presses the button and holds it in at the same time. Ta-da! It also has a 1/4 20 mount, so you can mount like any phone mount or anything else if you want to shoot some video. So what I'm going to be doing is applying the vinyl. Nice. Glad someone's getting use out of it. I use it all the time too. I built it for me. I was like, oh, maybe some other people would like this as well. So, I'm gonna put the vinyl on, trying to get the backing paper off. I feel like the first little thing to get off is always the hardest. First little part of the backing paper to get off is always the hardest. Okay. What I like to do with the backing paper is pull it at a very sharp angle so nothing gets lifted up, and if it does, which I'm sure it's going to, which it did, we can take our squeegee tool and just press down on there to not have it stick to the backing paper but to the transfer paper. And sometimes you can go at different angles because some of the cuts are a little weird and funky. This has some fine lines, and there's different types of transfer tape or paper. I really like to use this paper type that is basically kind of like a glorified masking tape. It has a good amount of tack, that it's not super tacky, that when you put it on the disc it's hard to get off, but also clings to the vinyl fairly well when you're pulling the backing paper off. Almost. So again, depending on if things are kind of ripping up or coming up with the backing paper, I go at different angles. And I try to use the squeegee to make it really adhere to the transfer paper. I think we're good. I think we're good. We're great. Fantastic. Put that to the side. Now, there is debate on, do you put the disc on top of the vinyl or do you put the vinyl on top of the disc? One way is right, one way is wrong. No, I'm just kidding. There is no wrong way to do that. Personal preference. Sometimes I like to put the disc on top sometimes, but my preferred method is to put the vinyl on top of the disc. So that's what we're going to do here. Let's scoot some stuff over. Adjust my laser. Let's see. I put the laser. Some discs are easier to see. If you put the disc on top of the vinyl, it can be a little bit easier to see where the center is because of the little, I call it nipple. So where the injection molding in point, ingress point is. But again, I like to do it this way 90% of the time. So I'm going to line the laser up with the nipple, the top nipple, and I marked on the back of, or on the transfer paper where the center is for my stencil. I know it doesn't matter because there's no up or down on the disc. What I did is, like, sometimes if you have a bottom stamp and you want to line, like, make the bottom stamp the same orientation, it's got the emboss of the weight of the disc, which doesn't really matter that it's upright, but we're going to do that anyways. Okay, disc is centered. Nice thing about the stencil, you'll see in a second, is it doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly centered. But on the transfer tape, I mark the center dot and slowly lower it down. I don't need the laser. And what I like to do is I like to take my finger from the inside of the center of the disc of where the nipple is, and I like just to gently rub outward from the nipple, just to get it tacked down. Dome discs are a little bit harder because there's a lot of curves, and I like to just work from one side, then I slowly lower the other side like so. Then I like to take the squeegee and again just working my way from the inside going to the outside. This stencil doesn't, it's not like a full complete stencil on the disc, so I don't have to worry about too much of going to some edges of the disc, which is nice. But if you are, you just slowly work it away. And if you have a stencil that goes to the complete edge, you can start using a heat gun to get the vinyl warm and malleable. And if you ever saw how they wrap cars with vinyl, it's basically the same concept. Once the vinyl gets warmed up, it gets malleable, and you can mold it to whatever shape that you want. Okay, now I'm going to take the transfer paper off, and I like to tack it down to the table, so when I lift it up, it's, I don't know, just slightly easier. But let me take the laser stuff off and the Disc-Align Pro 3000. Then I'll take the transfer tape off. Love the chat, guys. Love the chat. And nice, clean, good transfer. And we're going to be using denatured alcohol to paint the black on. But before we do that, we have to weed the disc. I wish I had my reference for this, but it should be fairly easy. And there's one thing that I did to this stencil that I've never done before, but Brittany from Ugly Hand Dyes does a lot, and that is have an offset of the stencil that's just going to be white, which is a nice way to separate the background that I'm going to be doing with the actual stencil. So, yeah. But I'm going to now weed the parts that I want to be black. So, this is going to be the fun/boring part. I picked a stencil that shouldn't take too long to weed. But if you guys have any questions, you can shoot them in the chat and I'll try to look at them. Or just talk amongst yourselves more about disc nipples. But again, love to see your guys' interpretation of the dog days of summer, of what you think that means to you and what is really hot. I had a few other ideas that I wanted to do, but I chose ice cream melting because that's literally the first thing that came to mind. Like a kid with grubby hands that's full of ice cream stickiness, but this hand isn't a child. Yeah. Okay. Shouldn't take 10 hours. It should be relatively fast, I'm hoping. Brittany, question for you. When you do the offset for the stencils, do you do anything to the outside offset so when you put the black on, there's not like a thin black line? That was one thing I was curious and wondering about. Because I want it to be white, and like no thin black lines in the background. But I feel like if I don't mask it off somehow, that it is going to have that thin black line. I was thinking about like putting a small bead of glue. Yeah. I ignore all the imperfections. You crazy person. Art must be perfect. No. This is going fairly fast and fairly easy. My preferred vinyl that I like to use is Oracle 651 in matte black. And again, it's all personal preference, but I like the matte black because you can see the stark difference between the shiny white canvas that you're working on, and when you are adding the black dye, you can have the black vinyl as a gauge of like how black is the coloring that you're adding to the stencil. So this stream was supposed to be a little bit more interesting because Brittany was supposed to be on here as a guest host, but was having technical difficulties with the OBS software. It was not liking me today for whatever reason. So that's why you only get one camera view and no chat embedded in the video. And I was going to have, because this disc is going to be a couple steps, and after the glue bed step, I was going to color in the stencil, and I was going to do two discs like a cooking show, and like have one already to the step where I can color stuff in. Let's see, you can be more careful with the blacks, but I don't usually get a thin black line, and it's so thin the background will disguise it. Not wrong. Curious. We'll see how that works. Dave overthinking the details again. Maybe. Maybe. Alright, almost done weeding. I try to pick stencils that don't take a whole lot of time to weed on the stream. There was a melting face stencil that I will be doing, but that was just so many lines. I was like, probably not the best for the stream. But you can eventually check that disc out. I know Brittany will also be doing a version or two of those. One thing I hate any like little dots or lines that you have to weed from a stencil. It's just like a nice stencil where it's just like one line and you're done. Like a Spiral Betty, those things are awesome. Yeah. So I use OBS for streaming. Maybe looking for a different software because OBS has been really flaky for me lately. I'm running it on a Mac. Yeah. Like most streamers are running it on PC. So let's see here. There's another thing that I saw from another crafter that does vinyl work, and they spread baby powder and dust it off, and the baby powder gets into all the cut lines, so you can actually see the cut lines a lot more visibly. So that could be one thing if you wanted to get your disc full of baby powder. Other things you can do is you can use a light board. So you can put it behind the disc so it illuminates and you can see the cut lines a little bit better. I personally find that with the matte black and standing just right, you can see the angle of the light and the reflection of the disc is really shiny versus the matte black. But props to anybody that does really detailed stencils that has to weed every single little tiny itty bitty piece. Okay. I think I got everything. Famous last words. Because I know you've done it where you forget to pull up a piece of vinyl. Alright. Think I'm good? I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Okay. So, we have the stencil weeded. 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 Oh, yes. Who uses baby powder anymore? Boy, a lot of things that just, you don't do it nowadays because you find out it causes cancer. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little bowl type bowl with the excess vinyl so that when I put the denatured on here, it's not going to spill and get underneath. I might do a little jiggering here because there is a cut line that I had. So I might actually take, well, depending if I want to put some electrical tape over it. First, I'll try cut some vinyl off the edge of this. I'm just going to put it on the bottom here. Hopefully make sure that it doesn't seep through. I don't want it necessarily getting on the bottom of the disc. I try to keep the bottom of the disc as clean as possible, but sometimes you have a red dye and a fingerprint and it just kind of happenstance dries the bottom of the disc, and many fingerprints on the bottom of this. But you have the artist's signature, foreverly dyed on the disc. Okay, let me get all the schnibbles, my weeding out of the way. And I'm going to lay down some paper towel, just in case we do get any spillage. We'll suck it right up. And I'm going to holster my tweezers because those darn things are sharp. And I'm going to get my DA. So, I have a mixture that is denatured alcohol with, I basically used all the Prochemical blacks to get the blackest black that I could get. And I found that it works out extremely well. And this method I picked up from Jory, from Jory's Fly Dyes, so thank you, Jory. Basically, we're using, instead of hot dipping, we're going to use denatured alcohol mixed with black dye. And we're going to take a dropper and basically flood the disc. And it can be a little bit harder if it's a domier disc because it would want to go to the outside. Flatter discs are a little bit easier. Bergs are extremely easy. All right. And I only do one layer. You can heat up the dye if you want to help accept to the disc a little bit better. You can preheat the disc as well. Because with disc dyeing, heat is your friend. Until you're done disc dyeing, then it's your enemy because it will make it fade faster. So basically just flipped a bunch of black dye on there. And you can use the, I like to use a paintbrush and kind of work it in there and let it sit, and it will eventually evaporate. So this disc that I'm dyeing on is Axiom Rhythm, and somewhat nice things about MVP discs is they're not extremely domey. Even with like some of the newer molds, they're not domey. They might have like a lip on the edge, then the rest of the top is flat. Let's see. Dye4 Disc says, I use Goof Off to get the fingerprints off the bottom. It's not perfect, but it gets more off than acetone or alcohol. Very good. I still have yet to use Goof Off in more capacity than I have been. Still working on the stamp removal video, which I'll hopefully be doing that maybe tomorrow. To see what methods remove stamps the best. And Goof Off is one of the things that I will be testing, because I know quite a few people like to use Goof Off to remove the stamps. Dave, have you tried the trail yet? Yes, today actually. I picked one up when I was at Idlewild, special edition one. I picked up the lightest weight one that I could find, which was 169. Through it, it's a little overstable for my noodle arm. I like to throw a fission wave and currently a fission time lapse that are like in the 150 range. But yes, trail, a little overstable for my noodle arm. But yeah, when I was there, I was like, I need to pick up a trail because I don't know where else I can find it. And, yeah. So just let the dye work in here. Which, yeah. It seems like some parts are taking the dye a little bit better than others. But again, that's why I like having the black vinyl, because you have a reference point of like how black is that black you got going on there. Yeah. Okay. And for the most part, I like to keep going until all the liquid dries up. Then after it's all dried up, I like to wipe it down a few good times with isopropyl alcohol to get any of the excess dye off. Clear is better. No. There are instances that clear vinyl is better. But I find personal preference matte vinyl to be easier to work with than shiny glossy vinyl. Unless you heat it up. But the shiny glossier vinyl to me feels more stiff and less malleable. The matte vinyl seems to be more malleable just in general, without heat. All right. The bottom part here doesn't seem to be taking as well as the rest, but I think we should be good enough. So tonight, the next thing that I'm going to do is a glue bed, and that's all we'll do for the stream tonight. I might do another live stream for the coloring portion, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Because I wanted to show how I was going to do that, because I was actually going to mix some custom colors. Okay. Going to take a paper towel, sop up the excess dye. Okie. And I'm going to take another paper towel, add some isopropyl alcohol, and wipe it down. I don't know if you can see, but you see that coppery looking gleam on there? That's not the black vinyl. That is excess dye. So if you see that on the transfer or the vinyl or even on the disc, that means there's excess dye that did not accept on the disc. You may also see this when you're hot dipping, the excess black dye with that coppery sheen. And if you do anything else with it, like if you want to color over it, since that black isn't necessarily embedded in the disc, it will kind of migrate and do some weird things. So what I want to do is clean as much off the disc as possible. Get some isopropyl alcohol and gently rub the disc. Get around the nipple area. I like to use these shop towels. I found that cotton swabs or cotton pads, they like to catch on little corners of the stencil. And I'm not like scrubbing the crap out of this. I'm just lightly going over it. If you do have like really fine details, you might have issues even doing this with the shop towel, pulling it up. There's a little tiny fine line that started pulling up, but it's fine. I gotta keep this stream PG here. Maybe PG-13. I know we're talking about nipples. We need to get happy little accents on here to do his dye. You know, just a little nipple. The captions literally bleeped out the word crap. Oh, crap. Crappy crap. I think if I do use explicit words that I do need to mark the stream explicit, but I'm not sure. Okay. Good with the black, right? Fantastic. So, close that up. The next thing that I'm going to be doing is a glue bed for the background. I want to make sure I only peel up the vinyl that I want the background to be applied to, which is just the outside of this. Because I want to keep the vinyl on the other parts, because I'll pull that off after I'm done with the glue bed so I can color it in. So I'm going to pull the vinyl off. Yeah. Just double checking to make sure you're good. And again, if you're not like doing a background, you want this completely white, make sure your hands are clean and you don't have like any excess little dye on there that can ruin the disc or dye. Since I'm doing a background, it's not mission critical, which is good. But just something to be aware of. I also do find that with the change of seasons, the colder weather, you have to keep that in mind. Things are going to be a little bit colder than it was in the summer. Like in summer when it was like 80 or 90 degrees up in the compound loft, things like the vinyl were a little bit more malleable. Right now it's a little stiffer. I did have a little bleed. Curious to see how that happened. I don't even know how the dye got under the vinyl. Oh, it seeped all the way here to all the way here. That is impressive. if you can see too well, but there's a little bleeding there. That's actually really impressive that it bled that far. But thankfully, we're putting a background on it, so then it's null and void. Alright, let's see here. We have a real comment from Joachim Branson. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Never seen anyone really talk about it, but is the glue used for dyeing one-time use, or do you actually get to rinse it somehow and use it multiple times? Yes, you can use for clear glue, you can use it a few times. So basically, when you pull it off the bed, you kind of squeeze off the glue, and whatever's left in the pan, you can actually put back into some kind of container to get it airtight. But you can use that like maybe up to 5 times. But yeah, you can use clear glue multiple times. And if you check on the YouTube channel, the Dyers Guild, we did a collaboration with Trash Panda, and we gave 6 tips to be more sustainable in your disc dyeing, and reusing medium was one of them. Inoki. That done. Let's work on the bed. So I like to use these plastic plates. You can get these at the dollar store, 2-pack for $1, and they fit almost all discs besides like mid-ranges because they're a little bit bigger. Just make sure when you put it in that it actually fits, which these do. But I really like these because it fits the disc perfectly, and it doesn't use a whole lot of medium. So you can save on your clear glue or whatever you're using it for. And what I like to do is I like to use press and seal to line my container, because once I'm done, I can either transfer that excess medium into the container, or I can do whatever else I need to dispose of it. Yeah. And the thing with clear glue is the dye gets embedded in the glue, which is fine because doing the clear glue method, the dye on the surface is the only thing that really matters, and you're basically putting new dye on top of the surface, so any existing dye doesn't necessarily affect the disc. I know some dyers have done some testing to see if it made a difference. Some tests people have done, they said it made literally no difference at all from a completely white disc. Some say it slightly tinted it, but for the most part, you should be good to go. Yeah. Clear glue, again, is the medium of choice. Any brand is basically the same. It's just some brands are might have inconsistencies between batches, or the viscosity. Certain brands are slightly different. I get these from Michaels. I think it comes out to like $13-14 a bottle. You can get like a 4-pack for $50, and if you, I think for like free shipping is like at $50. So I like to use this brand. And when I pour it in, I like to pour it in like you're pouring a beer. I say that because you want to try to mitigate as many bubbles as possible. Bubbles are fine, but depending on what you're trying to do, you can reduce the bubbles as much as possible. So think like you're pouring a beer, and you want to get the tip of the bottle as close as you can to the plate, and pour it like you would pouring a beer, so you don't get that foamy head. I'm just trying to think, I think I might need just slightly more glue. Need a whole lot. That should be good. And I'm going to put my paper towel placemat down just to make me feel better so I don't make a huge mess. If you do have air bubbles, you can use a torch to remove them. The one that I usually use is not in my vicinity, so I have this one. This one's a little bit overkill, but you got to be careful when you're torching stuff. A few reasons. One, it's fire, so fire bad. You're going to be working with acetone dye, so make sure your caps are on and nothing is exposed. The liner that we have on here is also plastic and can melt if heat is on there too long or too much heat. This is a little overkill and probably will melt some of the plastic, but we'll do it anyways. There we go. All right. Now the pattern that I'm going to be doing is going to be a swirl pattern, and maybe show you a mock-up of what I'm trying to do, which may or may not be able to see very well. Light bad. Something like that. So I want like a blue and pink cotton background. So, Brittany, remind me what colors I was going to use for the background, because I want like a bluish, a light blue, cotton candy thing, and also a bubblegum pink-ish. I think I was going to use Caribbean and another blue. I was going to have this prepared ahead of time, but with the technical difficulties, I didn't have the colors set up properly. That I wanted to. I mean, I could just use Sonic Blue, that's fine as well. But a pink. What should I use to get a pink? Race Pink and Caribbean. Yes, there you go. Thank you. And also Onyx. So give me 1 second to grab some of those colors. Please hold. All right. I got my Caribbean and Neon Cersei Pink. Sky Blue Caribbean. Okay. Caribbean, Sky, Creamsicle, Neon Pink, and yes, Onyx. I don't have any Sky Blue mixed up. But I have like every other color mixed. Pale turquoise? Does that sound like a good one, maybe? Alright. My only fear is with Caribbean, that it's not going to show up as deep as potentially the Cersei Pink. So, I think I might, we'll send it. We'll make it easy. We'll do Caribbean and Neon Cersei Pink. Also, I did make new bottle holders for different size bottles, and one of those bottles are these Nalgene round bottles. So if you're interested, we do have those on the Dyers Guild website. The pattern that we're going to be doing, I should have have this prepared, but I, again, didn't, is we're going to be doing that swirl type pattern. And we have a clear glue bed patterns, a step-by-step tutorial for beginners on our Dyers Guild website that show you exactly all the steps that you need to do to get that specific pattern. And you can kind of see we're going to be doing this pattern, and it gives you step-by-step instructions of how to get that exact pattern, and that is what we're going to be doing. And I had to reference it for my own reference as well. Okay, before we get to that step, we're going to take a little drinky drink. Ah, Cast-a-Blast mint. So, speaking of Cast-a-Blast, I have early access to the first run. iDog? Is it iDog or L-Dog? The dog? Anyways. Alright. So, the colors that we want to use are going to be black. In this case, we're going to be using Onyx. Then we're going to be using Neon Cersei Pink. And Caribbean. And I haven't opened these in probably a good year now. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be breaking this up into 4 sections. I think what I'm going to do is lay a black line in a cross pattern. Then each of those pie sections, we're going to be filling it in with color. So you will see this in a second. So the first thing that I'm going to do is the black. The reason I want to do the black first is if I need to make the lines a little bit thinner, I can use a straw or some other blowing device to blow it around. But yes. Justin, I'm on the mint team. I got a nice, wonderful Cast-a-Blast care package, which I promptly threw to the side of the room. But I also get early access to some of the releases to test out for them, which I probably should. Okay, back to dyeing. Enough talking about Cast-a-Blast. So I'm just going to do a single black line. I like to have the dropper pretty close to the bed, but not touching the bed. That's all I'm going to be doing. Like 1 layer is enough for the saturation that I'm looking for. Perfect. Squeeze out the remaining dye. I'm going to put the cap back on so there is no additional accidents or spillage, because even though it is in the tray, knowing my fumbling self, yes. But you can either use a straw or you can use the world's smallest leaf blower to blow things around. And I want to thin up the lines a little bit, and we'll try the leaf blower, which sometimes doesn't have enough juice. And actually, I'm going to put it on a Lazy Susan so I can rotate things around a little bit easier. And the other thing is, my table isn't completely level. It's going to kind of shift all over the place here, which I probably can shimmy it up a little bit. Always some paper towel. I think it's a little low on this end. There we go. Okay. I think I need new batteries for this. Not working too well, so I'm going to go the old-fashioned route and blow. I just wanted to thin those lines up just slightly. Next, we're going to add the other colors into the triangle areas. Fine slices, like pizza, but please don't eat this. And you can see that it does expand, it does make the other lines thin out. And each color does interact and react differently within the clear glue, so test things out beforehand. See how things work. As you can see, the neon Cersei pink is really starting to spread things out. So when we apply the Caribbean, which I think I might mix with another color, because I have a feeling it's going to be pretty faint. Yeah. What I'm going to do is, they got these wonderful shot glasses. You can drink alcohol, but if you do, make sure you separate your dyeing shot glasses with your pleasure shot glasses. So yeah, I'm gonna mix Caribbean with just a smidge of Sonic Blue to get it just ever so slightly darker. Because I believe when I was using this mix before, my old Caribbean mix, it was really faint. So I'm just gonna put some in a shot glass. So let's scoot my blue over here. Maybe like a few drops of Sonic Blue. You can always adjust later. I'm going to mix it up with a toothpick. Like you can see, I put the Caribbean in here and it literally shows nothing. Useless. So what do we got going on here? Okay. I'm going to add just a little bit more Sonic Blue. Do a few more drops. Do some more mixing. Cersei Pink definitely like to use up all its space and then some. What we got going on here? Okay. We'll see how this goes. I know Moogly had a good Caribbean mix with another color that was getting some slap and saturation, but I can't remember what that was offhand. I'm just haphazardly doing stuff. Add slight more Sonic Blue to this mixture. Very curious to see how these colors are going to turn out. Can't remember if it was the Cersei Pink that does not like to take on glue beds. Well, you'll find out. Okay, good enough. So we've added our color. We're going to put the caps back on the bottles. So we do not have any accidents again, even if they're in their trays and I just stuck my finger on the bottle top. Gosh darn it. So now I got dye on my finger. Okay. Let me wipe that off before I forget and get that smeared somewhere. And of course I used the paper towel that was shimmying it up. Darn it. Okay. New paper towel. We're professionals. Want to clean up my finger. before that gets everywhere. Because that, yeah, it's already, I need to slap some acetone on there. Boy. All right. Some ASMR for you. Okay. Next up is we're actually going to be doing the swirl portion. There's a few ways you can do it. Bring up a sample plate here. So you can swirl by taking the plate and physically tilting it like a tilt-a-whirl in the different directions. The other way that you can do is you can go like this and just swirl around levelly. My preferred method is tilt it like a tilt-a-whirl. So I kind of let things just slowly sludge itself around. And it likes to swirl the most on the edges first with this technique. You can also try different viscosities of the glue to get different swirls, and if you have a thinner viscosity glue, it's a little bit more conducive to actually blowing the swirls. That's the third way you can get some swirls. I like this method. And I'm very quiet because I am concentrating. Don't want to mess up. So you can keep doing this until you are satisfied with your swirliness. And I like some nice thin lined swirls. And with the stencil, I'm not horribly worried about the center, but that's the swirls. All right, cool. I think I'm happy. Trying to think of the orientation that I want my dye to be, which will be like this in my orientation. Okay. So when you place the disc into the bed, I like to have it at a slight angle so you don't trap any air bubbles while you're putting the disc down. Especially if you have a flat disc and you just kind of plop it down, you'll get air bubbles. So the slight angle helps a lot. And you want to go nice and slow and let gravity do the work. And should be able to, depending on the opacity of the disc, you'll be able to see actually the line of the glue touching the surface of the disc. So there you go. And I just like to push it down slightly. This instance, it's not hugely important because we mask off the rim of the disc. But if you want to get the dye to the actual rim of the disc, you press it down to the rim of the disc. And with clear glue, as soon as the glue touches the disc, that pattern is basically on the disc. So the clear glue sandwiches the dye between the disc, and it's kind of like gluing the dye onto the disc. And I accidentally messed up part of a disc once, and I lifted it up, and I looked at the pattern, and it was still there. And I put it back down and it was perfectly fine. So once you put the disc in the bed, wherever you put that disc in the bed and the pattern touching the disc, it doesn't matter if you really move it around or wiggle it or push it. It's not going to be like a shaving cream mound where it's going to like burst out necessarily. So once it's on there, it's pretty on there. So yeah, that's all I'm going to do for tonight, because that's all I can do with the technical difficulties that I had, because again, I wanted to have another preview disc that would be like, okay, here's the next step after the glue bed. But I didn't, because again, I didn't have time and had technical difficulties. So, yeah, again, might do live stream tomorrow, we'll see. But either way, you will see the finished disc that we create, and would really love to see your interpretation of the Dog Days of Summer. We have a few good submissions already, so definitely go check that out if you haven't. Again, the Dye-a-Thon is just a fun way to, if you're in a creative funk, if you want to try a new technique, it's a fun way just to do that. It's not a contest, but it's a fun way to show your interpretation and work. But if you do submit your creation onto the Dyers Guild website for that specific post, you'll get entered to win a prize. The prize for the month of August is a blank disc, yet to be determined of what that blank disc is. We'll be announcing the winner on the roundtable review in the beginning of September. So keep a watch out for that, and I'll also message the winner as well. Your chances are very good of winning. So highly recommend doing that. Dyeforge just says, how long and how hot are you going to cook that bad boy for? We, the Dyers Guild, cook them for 45 minutes in a dehydrator at the temperature of the discs reaches about 125 degrees. The temperature that we have on the dehydrator over there is like 131. It goes in really weird increments. But the disc gets about 125 degrees Fahrenheit. And you don't necessarily want to go hotter than that, because that can start warping the disc. Even potentially at that temperature, if you're using a very thin flight plate like a glitch, you have the potential of warping that as well. But heat is your friend when you're disc dyeing, just not too hot. All right. I think that is all I have, unless any of you guys have any questions before I turn off the stream. So I'll let the questions roll in. I'm just trying to think of anything else that I would like to say. Again, the Dye-a-Thon ends the end of August, which I think is the 31st at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, so get your submissions in with there. We have the next roundtable review, so we can also put in what you're doing for that as well. And hope to see you if you're going to be the next. We have 4 more events on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We have the Great Lakes Discraft Open, DDO, in Michigan. We have Green Mountain State, MVP Open, and the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships. So if you're going to be at one of those events, love to see you guys. I won't necessarily be there, we'll see, but the other guy, Austin, will be. So if you see the Dyers Guild anywhere on the road, stop in and say hi. Or if you actually see Austin driving the little trailer in his little Ford Fiesta, try not to flip him off because he's driving so slow. Just give him a nice wave. All right, so that is all I have. Until next time, guys, find your line,